Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? Normally the trips up to Dingwall are just those copy and paste matches, attack versus defence. Will we score a couple of goals? Well, we need to really grind it out and throw the kitchen sink at it to get over the line. But coming into this game, there was actually a few, question marks, unknowns coming into it in terms of the tactics, the style of play, the selected, the first 11 to begin the match, as well as who would actually be on the bench, with Maeda and Kuhn being out on top of James Forrest, really forcing the manager's hand to make some unorthodox choices in attack, as well as all the kind of, minute management, kind of job share stuff that we've seen going on in defence and in midfield. And this game, really, from start to finish, for as much as it was in a lot of spells, just another one of those kind of away games to Ross County, it was really engaging and it was really interesting to watch because there was so many unusual things happening in the team. And I think in this match, we might have stumbled upon a few cheat code moves that Celtic might be able to call upon later on in the season, or in, those kind of times of need when you need to mix things up, either away domestically or, at crunch time in a big match. In the video today, we'll break down what we've seen from Celtic in this match, as well as go through player ratings, winners and losers, big takeaways, all that good stuff, guys. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section. I want to hear from you guys, your man of the match, your big hot takeaways, or any little details of stuff that you've maybe noticed that hasn't been spoken about. Get it into the comment section, and let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, this is how we left the Celtic predicted 11 coming into this game, after we come back to review and react to Brendan Rodgers' pre-match press conference, where he announced that Daizen, Maeda and Kuhn wouldn't be making it. And I don't think we were really too far off the mark. Kyogo started on the right, of course, and Yang on the left, which I just thought at the time Kyogo would have been maybe just go into the Daizen position and just try and change as little as possible, but actually we had a fair amount of change. Carter Vickers started his 6th game in a row, which I think is groundbreaking stuff, and groundbreaking in the sense of Carter Vickers, for his whole Celtic career, has been forever plagued with this kind of niggling injury around the corner potentially for him, whether it be something that's recurring or something brand new. And just with this being really crunch time for a lot of things in our season, the treble of course, as well as Champions League progression, away to Ross County, I just felt 6 games in a row, when we're playing a game every 3 days as well, by the way. I thought maybe Scales would have come in from the start. We did see Scales later on in the game, of course, which was an interesting topic that we'll touch on as well. Taylor didn't start this one. Valley did come back in. And I just wasn't too sure about this because of his last start being up north away to Aberdeen in treacherous conditions. Wasn't too sure whether the manager would have fancied him again for it. And McKeown didn't start this one, despite him doing the pre-match press conference. Tati did come back in after scoring off the bench in the last game to come in and start. And we did see, we'll talk about the team and how it shaped up. And this was the starting 11, mostly predictable, I think, from Trustees and Engels and Yangs and Johnsons. There was a lot of kind of known elements here, and a few of the question marks. The Rodgers took some interesting steps with it, and again, similar to Yang and Kyogo, we did see Engels actually switch position, and we seen him go back to the right hand side of midfield, with Hatate returning to his favoured left side of the midfield. Now, I almost don't really want to put the Ross County players on pitch because it just crowds everything out a little bit and makes it a little bit busier because, again, if you did see this game, Ross County had a couple of chances, obviously they end up getting the penalty, but really, the manager called it in the pre-match press conference, 5 diamond 1, Now, I think everyone's focus and attention would have been on the front line here, as mine was primarily, of course, because seeing Ida and Kyogo from the start and seeing how the manager was going to try and shape them out was always going to be interesting and exciting to watch, because both strikers are in desperate need of goals, and this is actually an oddly convenient situation that we've put ourselves in here, because both strikers really needed goals coming into this game, and for the upcoming matches need to find that goal scoring touch, need to build on that confidence, and really we've had to throw them both in the deep end here. And this is a situation that I don't think we would have had the luxury of if Maeda and or Kuhn were both fit and available, and it would have been just the same kind of pattern of minute rotation and take your chances when they come that we see normally when everyone's fit and available. But with this, both of them play significant minutes, both of them are in different roles and really do need to come out with different solutions, which was really good, because I think, for all the positive stuff I'm going to talk about in the video that I really liked from all the stuff that we've seen first half and second half, because it was very much a game of 2 halves, we're playing a Ross County team that also had no freaking idea what the hell we were going to do, and even just that slight element of unpredictability, normally when we're playing against a team that's well coached and well managed, they'll have an out ball. They'll have a design on what side of the pitch they're going to try and do, or how can they get a goal or two in this game. They'll have a design, they'll have a plan on that. But coming into this game, because there was really no idea on how we would have shaped up, Ross County have just come into this game, especially first half, with just play safe, deep, kill the first half as best you can. In the second half, we can adjust and analyse from there. So we didn't really get anything too dynamic or that interesting in particular from Ross County. They are very good at home. Their pitch is quite small. The camera angle doesn't really help things either. I've seen a lot of people complaining about that in the aftermath. But really for us, like, the main thing that I thought was really interesting is we still had like Trusty, Carter Vickers and McGregor quite anchored into the normal sort of tactical spots and positions that they normally take up off the ball. Alistair Johnson still was kind of similar as well, but he had a lot more freedom to just kind of own the right side of the pitch, which was fine. And Yang, quite similarly on the left, was quite firmly in the wide area and was given the width on that side. But genuinely outside of that, with Kyogo, with Ida, Hitate, Engels and Valley, there wasn't really much of a shape or much of a formation, and we were able to just have lots of interesting little developments of play where if the ball was coming down the left hand side, perhaps with Hitate, Kyogo might be dropping on the inside channel here, and there's some great moves and some great chances that happened, and sadly we could have scored a little bit earlier. We could have scored a few more goals in this game had things came off. But this different approach, like sometimes when we are playing these types of teams that play 5 at the back with 3 in front, if it is just Kyogo or just Ida, it can feel like they're kind of buried in a defence that we just cannot find them in. But for all intents and purposes, this was a kind of 3 in the back shape, with Johnson and Yang on this side of the pitch. For all intents and purposes, this is quite 3-5-2-ish in the first half, and it didn't feel like any of our strikers were isolated from the game. It didn't feel like any of them were just buried in amongst defenders and they weren't able to be found, and we created some of those kind of snatchy chances in probably the last month or so. This goalkeeper had a great game, by the way, this Jordan Amisa. On a little side note, by the way, this guy, Ross County got him as a free transfer leaving Sheffield United after they got him, I think maybe they paid a few quid for him, out of the Borussia Dortmund academy, which is just a weird football path, isn't it? And like, again, if I was Paul Tisdale or whoever's calling the shots at Celtic, that's a guy that surely you can pick up the phone to Ross County, pay like a nominal fee for, like, let's call a spade here, keep him there for the rest of the year, loan him somewhere else across Europe in the summer, get somebody else to pay you 2 million quid for him in a year or something, like, feels like an easy one. Guy looks like a great wee keeper, and then like if a worst case scenario happened, let's just see how he's been doing. But I think that sort of practice is maybe a little bit further down the road from us, but that Amisa was tested in this game. You really got to see, especially as the game went on, what he was made of, and he was really tested. And against them in the derby, against Zagreb, against Bruges, like, we really did let goalkeepers off the hook here. And I thought that this was a great dynamic that just really felt that all the players were really linking up with each other. They were really connecting, whether it was coming out wide, whether we had to cycle possession again. It just never felt stagnant. It never felt one-dimensional. And really, in any kind of given area of the pitch, you really had no idea, for all intents and purposes, who would be getting on the ball next or who would be running off the player. And because it was so dynamic, like I say, Ross County had no chance of preparing for this in the best possible way, of trying to say, right, this is your man, this is the zones to kind of watch out for this player, because really, like, as I say, anyone could have ended up anywhere, especially in the first half. Now, when it came to the second half, we got the breakthrough goal eventually with Kyogo getting on the end of the Alistair Johnston cross, of course, and Kyogo had just missed a bit of a sitter right before then, and he probably, like I mentioned earlier, left this game with a hat-trick. And that goal kind of did feel like it was coming, and we had that sort of game where the pressure was good, chances were being created, goalkeeper was being tested, and that's one of these things that, if you watch this game, you're like, oh, it just felt a little bit better today. That's what it was. We looked goal dangerous. We threatened to go all the way through, even though, yeah. And Engels actually did find himself a few times on the left-hand side of the pitch here, maybe a little bit more second half than first half. But again, I don't know if it's just I'm seeing something there because we've been speaking about it on the channel. But when he's on the right-hand side, of course, if he's in this kind of zone, delivering a ball's fine. But there is times where you see him been forced in on this inside channel, and yeah, he can, like, he tried a long shot, didn't he, and he can pass with his left foot quite clearly, but it's not his favoured foot, it's not his optimal kind of side of the pitch to be operating on. And I kind of felt that a little bit, which is why, like, I think with the freedom that was in the pitch, we did see him maybe cross over this imaginary kind of midpoint line that goes from top to bottom across the pitch here through the penalty spot, the centre circle. on this side, because he could just then, drive in some different directions. And Hatate was very good in this game, was getting back, winning the ball, turning it over, was driving, was very, very clean all the way throughout this game. He'll be disappointed that they didn't actually get anything out of it. And I thought Engels, is only getting better all the time. Some of the play, long range passes is amazing. And his engine is really, really good. And, he kept up really well with this match in terms of, just being ever present again. I'm talking about for a lot of these players first half. You really don't know who was going to end up where, and the sort of play that was going to come off the back of it. It was really dynamic, and like I've mentioned a few times, really exciting to watch. But I just wanted to mention that Engels and Hatate left and right kind of situation. Now in the second half, like a lot of teams have done, it feels like ever since we played Aberdeen at home, is they make 2 subs at half time. And I think at that point Don Cowies took them into the changing room and went, right, this is what they're doing, you follow him, you try and do this, and we'll try and, whatever their plan might have been. But in the second half, of course, we didn't make any subs, but we did make quite a distinct tactical change where Kyogo was very much more on the outside. He was very much more holding the width, quite similar. And I know it's different players in different positions, but it really did give me deja vu to Hatate under Ange, where Hatate would always just have his heels on the chalk, as it were, on the touchline as a centre mid, and then you'd have the Taylor coming inside and inverting or whatever. And it felt like Kyogo was just much, much wider in the second half, and it felt like then that gave us the onus to kind of focus down the left hand side a lot more in the second half, which was good to see. I thought Yang was again very active in this game, and we'll come on to the player ratings to show what he actually added into the match, as well as Valley and Hatate. And then what that gave Kyogo the chance to do, as we see for his second goal, is be kind of like Daizen Maeda, but on the other side of the pitch, where when we are focusing down this line here, when the ball is whipped in, or if a delivery does come into the box, he can be arriving a little bit later as a striker, be able to judge the flight of the ball, not being marked as well. And I think this is one of the benefits that we really seen from Kyogo in this kind of free roaming position, where because he's not always on the last line of defence for offside or for the ball going out of play, or it being just involved with the goalkeeper, he could stand off the play a little bit more, not be marked and picked up, but his energy and his drive that we normally exploit to press teams or whatever, he could use to just arrive in the right place at the right time. And it just felt that on that kind of been able to step out of the game in that second half for him, it just bought him a new lease of life in the match, as it were. It gave him a new threat into goal, as well as inside there was some nice play, some nice give and goes, of course, nice link up like we mentioned, but being out here in the wide position and being just hungry to get on the end of something feels like, we say the word natural habitat on this channel with some players, and it just felt like Kyogo was just he could do that in his sleep. Some of the and again, when he's finishing some of these chances, you're like, brilliant wee man, keep it going, go and get a hat-trick, go get your season right back on track after missing even a few chances in this game. And I should add, before Kyogo's second goal, we had then brought on Johnny Kenny for Adam Ida, McKeown coming back on for Rio Hatate, the job swap we've seen from the last match. And with McKeown coming back into the midfield picture, we then see Arne Engels on the left hand side of this midfield, where he feels even more comfortable. And honestly, Johnny Kenny was lively. He was a right firecracker in this game, and the chance that came to him, I think everyone had their heart in their mouth at that point, just take the chance, pal, and he sets himself. He maybe has another chance, another second to maybe get a better swing at the ball, because it did feel like, in terms of backlift was quite minimal, and he's just got kind of under the ball, no power, no change of direction on it or anything. And you can see on his face, he was like, he put a smile on it, whatever. He could tell he was gutted that he missed it. And, it was like a little mini Kyogo in a sense, where he's not like an Ida type, who's a bit more physically imposing or whatever, but he's a guy that wants to come from deep, a little bit of give and go, maybe turn the ball over and then run into space and have a connection with whoever's playing alongside him in support. And really encouraging debut. And, I thought this was actually a great venue for him, because maybe with the camera angle as well, but if you just turned that game on and someone said to you, this is League of Ireland, you probably wouldn't have batted your eyelids. So he's probably quite comfortable playing in Dingwall, the quality of the pitch, the surroundings and all that sort of thing, and it didn't look phased at all, shooting into the Celtic fans as well. If he did score, it would have probably been absolute limbs. And then right after Kyogo's goal, there was a wee bit of pressure on our goal, and Valley actually gets caught out for a bit of a cross, and I was thinking, that's interesting. I wonder if, because of that threat at the back post, I thought he dealt with it kind of half well, to be honest with you. I thought, Rodgers has maybe picked Valley over Taylor on that kind of basis, like maybe he's got better back post defending, and that's not really something that I overly think about myself, because he brought, and this kind of came back to the front of my mind when he brings Valley off, not for Taylor, but for Scaldini himself. And like I mentioned, this felt like we were playing free at the back, and then see when Scales come on, of course Johnson's still on the pitch, right, I get it, but this felt like a free at the back, and then I know McKeown gets a lot of the credit for how active he was, and obviously gets the final goal, which Johnny Kenny actually gets credited with an assist for. But it felt like with Scales coming in here, Scales was happy. He was kind of positioned out on this left side and tried to be the old inverted fullback job and tried to go up front once or twice, don't get me wrong. But it just felt like with them three on the pitch, McGregor just all of a sudden got a little bit higher. The whole midfield got a little bit higher. We were getting to the forwards a lot quicker. And even though there was a penalty and there was like a million minutes of added time because all the VAR checks happened in added time, which added time on to the added time, I think this played a part in it as well. Having these three big guys on the pitch, as well as Alistair Johnson, if he wasn't quite as high, he could always come back in. And again, the pitch is so narrow. He's kind of covering in the central zone a little bit as well, naturally, as well as Scales, of course. So a lot of interesting little dynamics kind of changed in this game, you know. And again, I think it's interesting. Scales playing on the left of Trusty. So if Vickers isn't playing, like they're kind of still doing the same thing, aren't they? They're just kind of over to the side a little bit. So between this little stuff we've seen in defence and, you know, Kyogo on the front line, the midfield, I don't think the midfield dynamic really was overly different or interesting or anything today. It was more the front line, and then laterally towards the end of the game, the defence. But right before we come to player ratings, if I can just kind of get rid of the Ross County players for a second, what we've been kind of forever chatting about is a couple of things on the channel in terms of areas of the team that we need to improve on for like the Champions League and for like the big games, or just teams that just need a different solution to be tackled in. Is that we haven't had a lot of like central penetration with the midfielders. We don't see the midfielders often linking up because McGregor, like for all intents and purposes, like we spoke about quite explicitly in this video, it's kind of like a third centre back for large periods of the match. And it feels like in the last couple of games, McKeown on the right hand side of midfield and Engels on the left really does open up a new kind of avenue for us. And like, we don't need a solution for right wing, right? Because Kuhn has been absolutely fantastic. But what Kyogo really offers you on this side here really does mirror fantastically well with what we have from Daizen Maeda. Now, if we've got Daizen Maeda and Kyogo in this kind of little situation I've got you in at the moment, being these kind of, like, they are wide forwards, they can like get down here, and Kyogo has some good deliveries, by the way. The deliveries and the distribution from Kyogo today was, I would say, above the level, clearly, what we get from Daizen Maeda in the wide spaces. But if we have that from this side, and from this side where generally they're going to be driving more towards goal, we've got midfielders that are doing the same kind of motion as well, of course. If we have that on both sides of the pitch, it then just puts more pressure. I don't want Brendan Rodgers to get mad at me, so I'll just put left back here, okay? It then puts more pressure on having actual wing-based fullbacks, as it were. But this could be absolutely OP. Now, with the actual squad that we have right now, you might be saying, right, Johnny Kenny's not the guy to play centre forward in this type of shape, potentially, when you've got these incisive kind of wide press happy forwards as well, goal hungry guys, tap in merchants, cut back heroes. But who would you play in here? And do you know, it might need to wait until the next time we play Ross County or whoever's bottom of the table next time we're playing bottom of the table. But having Maeda incisive wide forward here, Kyogo incisive wide forward here, stick with me for a second here, a la a wee bit of David Villa's, a wee bit of the Pedro's. We've likened his dribbling style and his kind of close control. I'm not going to say his name, you know where I'm going with this. But Nicolas Kuhn in like a false nine position in the middle of the pitch really feels like it could be this could be the Rubik's Cube completed. You know, it really could, if this was the kind of the shape in the system. You know, there's still no Hatate in the picture. We could talk about some other players and some other positions for upgrades and whatever, but like, that would be fire. I would love to see a front three of but we do see this front three all the time. It's Kyogo and Kuhn out here. And do you know, the thing with Kuhn as well is he's got a great engine. You know, he really does win a lot of stuff back. He's quite press happy. He does travel up and down the pitch. And in that false nine position, those are very good qualities to have, never mind that close control. And then being able to play guys like Kyogo and Daizen running off him into space, like centrally, not down the line, could be, like I say, we could have just cracked the Rubik's Cube with the team here. But Brendan, get into the comment sections and let me know your thoughts and feelings on that one. Now brace yourselves for a shock. As we come to the player ratings, the highest performing player out of 100 in this match today was none other than Hyang Hyun-jun, the Yang Gang in full effect. He's brought in an 86.4 out of a 100 performance. A penalty won in my world is what we call a decisive action, because it's kind of like an assist if the goal gets converted. So that's really boosted the score up, of course. But if we looked away from that, he's been fouled twice in this match. He's also completed 2 tackles, which as a striker or a forward, he doesn't really get any statistical credit for. He made 2 effective clearances. He won 9 duels in this game. He did lose 5. A net of 4 is very, very good. 14 possession loss for a wide forward is not any big shakes at all, with 9 of them being missed passes like crosses or through balls or whatever that end up being goal kicks or intercepted. 47 accurate passes, 21 of them in the final third. 2-1 contest, which is like real dribbles where you like go by a man, take him out of the equation. 3 attempted assists, 2 balls into the box, and a shot on target for himself. And he was in Kyogo's shadow for that opener. And really, like, when we look at Yang's performance in this game, like how well he's done with the defensive statistics as well, like tackles won, and then those offensive ones like duels won, and we can see how handy he was. Guys like this, quite frankly, are offering the absolute base, the absolute minimum. These statistics that we have here from Yang, in particular the kind of soft ones that don't, you know, the ones you would call underlying stats, ones that don't overly help the position of a left winger or a left forward, but show you what they're kind of adding into the overall equation. And I'm talking about like the tackles one, the duels one, of course, like I've already mentioned. These underlying numbers are what really does signpost Yang alongside other wingers that we've got at the club, like Daizen and Kuhn, and maybe to some extent, of course, James Forrest. And all Yang is missing at this point is being able to square balls for tap-ins and get some tap-ins himself. And in Kyogo's shadow today, there was a tap-in there for him to be had. Sadly, it never came off. And like we've seen with the minutes he's already had, he's not quite had that calmness, that composure to find those crosses, those cutbacks. What I always say it on this channel whenever we talk about Yang, what he's not got, he can get. You know, he's not missing much. He's got so much going for him that other players will never learn, you know, in terms of just that dexterity, that speed, that directness that he has, putting defenders on the back foot. And he is the highest rated player in this match today because of all those other kind of off the ball stuff, those efforts, those successful actions that he completed in this game. Right behind him, but not too far behind him, is Kyogo Furuhashi, of course, with his 2 goals today. He did also have 2 big chances missed, so the ratio of goals to big chances missed continues to go on. 3 contests won for the wee man. That's a really good stat for him. He doesn't normally get too many of them. 5 balls into the box as well. And, you know, this was one of the frustrating things about seeing Kyogo being so elegant and so effective on the ball in the second half, in particular in that more wider position. Is one of the things that boils my blood with Kyogo is how irregularly he actually does try and play other people in when he's the striker. He's always shooting, he's always giving himself another chance, tries to beat another man. Very, very rarely like exhibits these kind of qualities. So I did find it mildly like frustrating as well in that regard. 18 possession loss, which considering everything is no problem. 12 of them are missed passes. An interception. The duels are won as well, and again we're talking about Yang and soft skills. 20 accurate passes for the wee man here. No 1 tackles, but an effective clearance, and he got fouled twice as well, so winning some free kicks out in the wide spot. So great shift from both the wide men. Maeda on a 47. Did he cover himself in glory in this game? No, but he really could have got an assist for dropping that ball down for Kyogo. I thought this was a game that would have suited him, and I think he'll be disappointed not to be scoring in this game. He does leave with a big chance missed, of course. Attempted assists are there. Did try and link up the play ever so slightly. 26 accurate passes. In that first half, Ida and Kyogo were very central, and they were just kind of dropping in deep and linking up with each other and anyone going around with the ball, and that's quite evident to see. He only lost possession 8 times, but from 3 missed passes, so not too bad compared to some of his pals in the team. The next highest player we had in the game was the penalty-taking hero, the last action hero, Arne Engels, on a 77 out of 100 rating with his goal scored in this game. 1 shot on target, 5 attempted assists, 9 balls into the box. These would have been corners and the stuff from open play, of course. 67 accurate passes, that's quite high for Engels. 11 passes missed. Duels won and lost, not terribly good. 22 possession lost, again with the set pieces he's on, it's easily forgiven. And like I say, yeah, no real defensive contribution from the big man in this game. More on the ball, playmaker-esque kind of role, which is good to see. Hitate on a 42, again, like, didn't do great in this match, but I did think he looked fine enough, didn't he? It was definitely a big part of the team, was a positive contributor for the most part, but just wasn't really in there with, he got 1 shot on target, didn't really make many attempted assists compared to what we normally see from him. So it does feel like Engels was carrying a bit more of that water in this game. Callum McGregor, what do we see? Only 68 accurate passes, which is on the low side for him. Only one of them was missed. Like, no final third activity from McGregor. Like I say, almost like a third centre-back in this game. Cameron Carter, Slippers, Vickers is on a 70 here out of 100 as well. The best performing defender on the day as well, which is lovely to see. A block, 4 effective clearances and a tackle, 7 duels won, only 1 lost. 114 accurate passes for the big man. Yeah, not many of them getting into the final third. Very little of an attacking presence here. 1 shot on target with a header. Austin Trusty just behind him. 138 accurate passes for him. Only 8 of them were missed. 7 duels won, 6 lost. He made an interception as well. Has completed 3 tackles. So really good shift in from Big Trusty. And there was a heart in the mouth moment for him. Maybe if a wee mistake in the first half or whatever. Alistair Johnson, you might be thinking, why is he not one of the better rated players in the game? He sadly conceded a penalty, which is also a negative decisive action, which kind of undermines his assist. In the statistical ratings we've got here. He also has a big chance missed, credited to himself as well, and I think he'll feel that way about it himself. 40 accurate passes, lost possession 11 times through 6 passes. The duels won and lost aren't actually that good. Interceptions and tackles, a wee bit on the low side for Johnson, but he was much more of a wide player, especially in the first half, wasn't he? So he only finishes with a 36 out of 100. And Alex Valley on a 59.3. Had a pretty busy game without being overly spectacular, but 70 accurate passes, 22 of them in the final third, doing his best Greg Taylor tribute act he possibly could. 8 duels won, 9 lost. High volume, but it's good that he's won 8. You know, guys like that, if they're involved in 17 duels and they lose 12, 15, it's also a different story. But being involved in that many and getting that amount of wins, although the percentage isn't great, is good enough. And 5 tackles won, you know, really turned the ball over quite a lot. And, you know, watching the game only once, I think maybe watching this game, I thought maybe 1 or 2 of them might have been Hatate. So great to see that Valley is putting that kind of shift in terms of winning the ball back and getting it to the likes of Engels, Jan Kyogo, whoever he's been hitting the ball to. Casper, no clean sheet in this game, obviously, penalty conceded, and nothing happened for him in this game, really. He had 25 accurate passes, didn't miss one of them, and that was all she wrote for the big man. From the bench, Scales get 5 minutes, no point talking about him because we got McKeown on for 17 minutes. He got his goal. He had a shot on target in this game. 7 accurate passes, only 1 missed pass. 3 possession losts, and really not else besides, but the goal was fantastic. And Johnny Kenny gets the assist for the goal with it kind of rolling off his bum after charging into the box, not quite getting his chance, being bumbled over. He does get a big chance missed in this game, which does take away some points for the chance created. His 1 dribble, you know, his 1 contest where he's went by the man, and the shot on target that he's made himself. Does he have anything else going? A few duels and stuff like that, nothing major. But again, I thought he looked lively and a nice debut for him. I'm sure he'll be proud of his performance. And ultimately, like, I don't think the stats do it too justice. Like, I thought that Tate performed a little bit better than what this shows. Alistair Johnson did as well, of course, but it's just the virtue of the conceded penalty, just kind of having that black stain, as it were, on the match as a whole. And Yang kind of getting out of jail, conversely, with winning a penalty, you know. So it's funny how that statistic in this metric kind of does pan out and scale out. And we had a really interesting chat on the Sorare CSC group chat for the live stream that we do here on a Thursday. Me and the guys that are on that show were chatting, and Mark Patrick Ware brought up a great point again that he made on the show last Thursday, that we only used 3 subs again in this game. And Brendan Rodgers, despite the bench having some guys maybe fledgling, you know, trying to get into the squad, make a name for themselves, change the natural order of the best 11, get their name out there, as it were, he's not doing it by default, you know. I don't know what kind of message or what sort of statement he's trying to send. Is he being super conservative in case someone gets injured and you still need your subs, rather than maxing them out, assuming everything will be fine? I'm not too sure. Be interested to see your thoughts and feelings on, you know, the sub amounts, you know, how many subs we're making in the comment section down below. And I can't believe it, by the way. It's Saturday afternoon, early kickoff, fair enough, is when this game's happened. Right after we played on Thursday, and our next game against Dundee is Tuesday. What a quick turnaround. I'm sure there's going to be some changes to the squad again. We'll be back on the channel the next couple of days to have a look at, will we get the Barcelona tribute act at Celtic Park? Will we bring Kuhn into the false 9 position, get Kyogo and Daizen off him? Will it be something a bit more like usual? Will there be another wild card to be had? Who knows? On screen are now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Get into the comment section with your man of the match, of course. Stay out of trouble. Hail, hail, and moan the hoops.